Back on the show, Director of Coach Development for SAVI Coaching, Mark Cascio. I'm putting you on the spot immediately. What's the best basketball coaching related thing that you've seen on the internet in the last month?
This is going to be a shameless plug, and it's because it's going to be SAVI related, and only because I have not been consuming a lot of new material on the internet. I'll go through like rhythms of a head coach, right? Like in season, we probably don't consume and add as much. This is kind of my in season right now where coaches are plugging into consulting. I'm building a new offensive course, and we have really increased our like coaching and consulting with our members because they're diving in. So I'm sorry to say it's going to be something savvy. And honestly, it is the art of coaching. I think most members come to Savvy because they want some kind of system like drive in space, race in space, lock left, the shooting system. But the reason the most value that users or members get out of Savvy is the art of coaching. It is the application. So they might come for what we do or even how we do it. That's kind of like I guess the member journey is I want what they do, I want the stuff, but then it's how do they do it and why do they do it that way? That's been the most compelling. That's been kind of the aha moments that we've had with our members, especially the ones that have been around for a handful of months.
So, as you said, we are now entering the preseason planning where a lot of coaches have already been thinking through this over the course of the summer, but now it's like really time to hone in and focus in. So, with that in mind, not necessarily providing a checklist, but really kind of giving ideas for what is important this time of the year and what do we absolutely have to be thinking about. So, thinking about your own coaching, what was the single most important non-negotiable item that at the very beginning of every preseason, like this was the thing that topped your list?
A few things come to mind. I think at this time, let's assume that most coaches are entering into their official practice season. So, like, official preseason is hitting. We would prioritize more team development, system implementation right now than player development because up until this point, we have been all player development. So now I like this as a forcing function too. You shift more to team. So you give players a mental and a physical break where they can kind of deload in the weight room, deload on the court to where their bodies feel really, really good going into practice. But you reinstall, or if you're installing a new system, you install this system now. That way, when you hit official practice, you hit the ground running and they have prior experience to draw from. So it's basically whole part whole, right? Like let's just hit the hole, let's expose you to everything. That way, when we break it down and then go whole again, you've got prior experience to draw from. So I would encourage coaches to when you start practice, let's assume you're in week 1 of practice. What's absolutely necessary, what is a non-negotiable for me, is like hard first teaching. Let's throw our team into reads and decisions in live game play and resist the urge to start with drills because every coach, I know me, I was very guilty of this in multiple years of coaching is, hey, we got to get the boring stuff out of the way. We got to do the drill stuff. And as a coach, you got to grind through it. So as a player, you know they're grinding through it. But yeah, so I installed lock left with a team locally here on 2 days ago. And the very first thing I did is after we got warmed up, I created a standard because it's easier to hold a standard than create a standard. So I just get them to standard as quickly as possible. And then we played 5-on-5 before I did any type of teaching because one, I wanted to see what I needed to coach. Two, like they're in there to hoop and to play. I didn't want to rob them of that experience. Get in there, play. Then when they're tired and they want to break, now I'll slow down and I'll teach a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to call everybody out for this, but as long as I've done this podcast and I hear it from other places, everybody say whole part whole. I'm going to just call them on the bull on that one because I think that coaches, they have a desire to do that. And they may do that to a degree. If I actually come observe their practice, it's just human nature because you don't want it to just, you feel like we're not ready for that yet. It's just it's going to be hideous. And so it's this, I need it to kind of build so that it looks right and so that it is right. I would guess that probably one of the questions I was going to ask, one of the things that you feel like early on you did, but now being more experienced, you look back and was like, I need to do it that way instead. For me, that's what you just described.
Yeah, and I'll even go a little bit deeper in that my practices were way too clean as well.
Yeah.
That my practices were more designed for me to have a good practice where I avoided my team not looking good, right? Like, oh, this is horrible. We're turning the ball over. If you're playing something and your team looks horrible in it, you should do it more. You
Yeah.
shouldn't avoid it. And I was guilty of that. So how do you go whole part whole? And in fact, instead of whole part whole, I actually like to say like complex to simple back to complexity. Start with like the end in mind. Whatever most coaches will design their practice to progress up to 5-on-5. And then if you're running late, you're cutting the most important part of practice. So start with it, start with the complex stuff, then go to the breakdown, the simple, the teaching, the training. Prime is teaching, like let's prime them let's encode success, let's do our teaching, then let's train it. You're adding some context, and then let's compete, right? And let's get to the competition part as fast as possible. So you could compete, then you could teach and train, then you go back to competing. So even if it's not whole part whole, let's just start with complexity. Even if it's like 3-on-3, let's play live. Let's get some bullets flying, see what we need to train. And then we can always do that in a game sandwich. I'll quickly just run through what a game sandwich is. Game, drill, game. Most coaches will go drill, drill, drill. And then, okay, now we're prepared to play the game. Let's just jump into a game. Again, that's what your players want to do. If you want more engaged players, have them play games. That's why they're in your gym, is to play the game of basketball, not to do drills of basketball. So play a game, and whatever you're observing, our blockouts are very, very poor. Well, let's stop. Let's focus on blockouts for 90 seconds, and then let's go back to playing and add a constraint around blockouts. Change your scoring system for rebounding, measure rebounding, whatever it is, but you can spotlight that coming out of that drill. Guarantee your transfer and your execution is going to be way higher than just doing drill, 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 drill game, because when you go drill, 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 they don't have the context of when they're going to use this in the game that you're about to play.
Do you think that part of the caution comes from that idea of like we don't want them to be getting bad reps?
Yeah, and yes, I like we have to build habits is the thing. Like I think the thinking would be, if we're not doing drills, how do we build habits? And fair, like I get it. You will see faster quote unquote results doing drills or block training. They're going to get better at doing that thing faster. But if they can't do that thing, that skill, anything that's learnable as a skill, if they don't know when to use that in the game, it'll never show up. So we could work on a certain footwork, but if I don't know when to use it, what's the value in that? With a like more random approach, variable approach, games-based constraint-led approach, you might not see the results as quickly as block, but the results are going to stay longer and they're actually going to show up in game. So I think that's one part of it, and fair. The second part of it is, and I said it, is coaches want to avoid adversity in practice because it makes them feel insecure maybe, or they just watch and they're like, gosh, we're not getting better, this is horrible. But your job as a coach is to dial in the right amount of adversity. You should create problems for your team that they have to find solutions for in practice. That's what training is. It's like we're in here to work on things that we're not good enough at yet, so we become better at them. So I think it's really those two things. And I would say, as coaches, if you're able to embrace messy, your teams will be so much more prepared for games, because games are absolutely messy.
So when we're coaching, most of people that are listening to this, they see our names on it and they're looking for something conceptual offense, or what I'm actually calling conceptual defense. I think that Loch Lest, and I also think that the defense that we run, the 2-1-2 pressure defense, are conceptual in nature, and you get better at them. There's concepts you have to understand. When you coach that way, how difficult is it to get in everything that you want to before game one? And I guess another way to ask that is, what is an acceptable level to which your team is in that first game that you're like, okay, this is okay for game number one?
Yeah. What's going to happen a lot is the compass that I would use. So if we went and played a game tomorrow, well, we're gonna have to guard the ball a lot. We're gonna have to rebound a lot. We're gonna have to pass the ball a lot, shoot the ball a lot, etc. What's not gonna happen a lot is baseline out of bounds, sideline out of bounds. Those things are going to happen. But do we need 5 baseline out of bounds out of plays in for game one? Probably not. I usually I had a checklist that I would go through, but also as a head coach or just an experienced coach, you have like a mental picture of how fast you can move and what you would like to have in. Even if you don't have a written checklist, I would still recommend one. And you also know who you're playing early in the season, but it would be what happens most. And I would also look at your systems that you run. You probably run an offensive system, you probably run a defensive system, maybe you have a system for player development, and obviously all of those, that's a Venn diagram. There's a ton of carryover there, but just look at like your very first principles. Zoom out to the first principles, like what do we absolutely need to have in? And you could go through your principles of play: spacing, advantage, shot selection. How do we create space, attack space, and pass in the space offensively? And then defensively, how do we prevent that from happening? Offensively, how do we create advantages? Defense, how do we neutralize advantages? And then shot selection, what shots are we hunting? How do we get those shots? Where do we get them from? And then defense, how do we take those away? If you had that, you're ready to rock and roll for your first game. Throw in some special situations. Special situations don't have to be late game situations, but baseline out of bounds, free throws, subs, all those things are special situations. They're going to happen less, and they tend to be like a special situation is a situation that you have more control over as the coach.
A testament to what you've taught me and some of the others that I've talked to quite a bit, but that has really helped us guide what we do in our first. We're now in week number 5 with our preseason practice. By focusing on those principles of play has really helped me to be able to keep it simple for the guys. And I feel like has accelerated those 3 things. The spacing, we're still not great at them all, but I'm able to focus on those things. And then one of the outcomes that is leading me into my second question, it has allowed me then to focus the film session on those things rather than just showing a bunch of random things where we need to get better at. And that's allowed me to reinforce those things to really focus on, like you said, the things that are going to happen most often. And that's my next question in regards to film. How do you integrate that, and to what degree, and where should they be spending their time early on here?
Yeah, I want to highlight something that you said there is like we're not good enough at it yet, or not great at it yet, whatever you said. Man, that's the fun part. I used to get so frustrated too of like, gosh, we're not there yet, or I wanted my teams to be perfect all the time. But if your team was great at everything you were teaching early in the season, the rest of the season wouldn't be very much fun, because the whole fun part is growing and developing and teaching, and the definition of a coach is taking someone or a group of people somewhere they couldn't go by themselves. Well, if they were already there, you wouldn't have a very fulfilling job for the rest of the season. All right, so film. Gosh, this is a good topic. In fact, we have a SAVI coaching retreat in Phoenix coming up, and obviously I've been tasked to talk about conceptual offense with our coaches, shocking development. And what I think I'm going to do is just reframe it as, all right, how can we teach conceptual offense through film? Because a lot of the people that are going to go to this retreat, they are members. Anybody's welcome. If you want to come, reach out. But they know, like, we have a new system, RDS, race it, drive it, space it. They know what conceptual offense is. I think that'd be a waste of their time. But now, how do we teach through film? So exactly what you just said is we could look at it just through principles of play. All right, we're only going to look at our spacing. And I would rather show 3 clips 10 times than, 30 clips one time. Yeah. So before we watch film, I'm going to have a few clips that I have cut. I'm going to have my teaching points, the language I'm going to use, when I'm going to pause the film. I'm having all of that pre-planned out. And I might share the same 3 clips with all of our players, group them up, and have them show me their takeaways from the clips, because I already know it. And if they have to do it, they're going to just attune their lens, because if not, if I just throw in the film, everybody's just going to look at themselves, right? They're going to find themselves. What was I doing? Was this a good play for me? They're thinking, what is coach going to coach me on? And then they're watching whatever. Like if you're the player that shot the ball in that possession, that's all you really care about. So I think having them break it down and then present it is going to give them a new lens, and they might find some things that you don't find, but also it's a great tool to check for understanding. If our players are leaving the corners way too early and none of our players address that, or maybe 4 out of our 5 groups of players that we've grouped them into don't address that. It's like, wow, the majority of our players are not seeing that. And then that would be the big takeaway from that film session is like, if they're not seeing it, and then I point it out, that's going to be the aha moment instead of me just saying, Tony, you got to stay in the corner there. Right. And pointing those things out. So I think less clips, the better. And how do we take that to the practice floor? When you, again, prime, train, game, film can be a prime, right? We're showing them what success looks like. And then when I get on the court as fast as possible, I'm going to do something that applies that one thing that we took away from film. So in this case, if it was holding the corner longer, we're going to do some kind of shooting drill or shooting game where we have to hold the corner and get like an early, easy pitch, just so we can bring the film to the floor as fast as possible. And then again, that should be an objective through practice. We don't want to talk about spacing or holding the corners in film session and then, not touch on that, or the big objective of offense is, something unrelated to that, like using ball screens or something. Like, let's make sure that everything has that central theme. So I'll wrap it up with this. Coaches, when you're planning practice, don't think of what drills are we doing or what games are we playing. Think about it. What are we working on? And whatever you want to work on at practice, then design your drills and games and your film sessions around that.
We just started with the film and I actually had them do the rating system on it. So similar to our shot scale that we talked about on here, I did that for our principles of play on offense for spacing and then for advantage as well. And then had them rate each of those. And at the end, give me like 2 statements I need to or I will improve in, and improve in those things. The purpose is the same of what you said. You end up, maybe they see something in themselves that you don't necessarily see. It also gives them an actionable plan that they are, okay, now you're going to focus on those things the rest of the week. And it's something that I can hold them accountable to, but has vastly improved film session from just the showing 10 to 15 clips. And, we need to get better at these things. And like you said, they're just watching themselves or on the court. How cool
The shot selection is always fun because that's probably the most gray area, like spacing. It's like, hey, you're either on the X or you're not, or you either like exit cut it, like you walked or you jogged or you sprinted. Those things kind of tend to be pretty binary. But shot selection, there is a lot of gray area there. And if anything, I love the conversation that it comes to that. And then it's kind of how you get roles involved in there too. Like I've coached some really, really good shooters that if they could get a small advantage 3 off, like it's a good shot for them. And then other players, it's not a good shot for them. Mm-hmm. That film sessions opens up kind of a safe space to start to unpack those things. Leaving that film session, if I asked your players, hey, what did we focus on today? They'd all say shot selection. So that's a measurement too because I think when you're in front of the room as a coach and you show 20 clips, you leave, and I know I've been there before, like the guys go out and they're going to the court and you're like, I hope they got something from that. Yeah. Like I hope they got the point or they remembered. If you're singularly focused on something, it's a can't miss.
This has allowed us to have those kinds of conversations earlier than I've ever had them before. And I feel that's vital because we have 7 new players this year. So the faster that we can get them all on the same page and understanding something as important as shot selection, I feel like is definitely beneficial.
I like that you had them come up with 2 statements too. Those 2 statements, you could maybe develop a framework of like a strength and a stretch. So like, what is the strength of yours? Is like, gosh, like I shot a lot of 9s. I know what a 9 is. My stretch is I need to get better at shooting the 3 or whatever it is, right? But it's some kind of stretch, or I need to make sure I'm passing up this shot that's not necessarily a 9. Maybe my hand's going away from the rim or away from the backboard. That's the one where I need to get to a stop, or that's the one I need to be able to find that opposite corner skip pass. So my strength is that I can get to the rack. My stretch is engaging to and getting off the ball instead of forcing those.
You mentioned earlier like blobs, and let me expand it to like special situations. How early do you start dedicating time to special situations, and what all do those include?
Yeah, I think so to answer your question, I'll tell you a framework that I use for baseline, sideline, out of bounds. Number 1, I want multiple plays out of the same alignment. So it's a family of plays, which a lot of coaches do. But I would choose that based on my bread and butter. Like, what am I going to use in that late game situation? What's my can't miss, my go-to play in late game situations? Then I'm going to design everything from there. So I'm going to start with my best one. Let's say that alignment's out of a box or a diamond or something. Okay, well, then what else can we run out of a diamond that fits us, that we can flow into an offensive action that we already have in? So then we can run some stuff from sideline, but I don't have to teach anything. I think maybe your specials are either maybe your best action with your best two players, or that could be something that you go outside of what you currently do because it is the special one. So I would start there, but I would install my base one early. And my base blob or slob that I would have in for my first game would be something that, hey, we have a chance to score. And if we don't score, we're going to hunt a 9 first, 7 second. If we don't get the inside or outside, now we're in our spacing template and we can flow into this action that we run out of our offense. So we get seamless flow from a dead ball situation into our offense. Other special situations, like ones that are easy to practice, would be like free throws. Most people wouldn't think of those as special situations. Here's an easy way to practice that: is obviously call fouls. We didn't call a lot of fouls in practice early in the season. The only time I called fouls is during like live scrimmages where we're calling out of bounds. We didn't play out of bounds either. So we're calling out of bounds. We're calling travel. I don't call a lot of travels in practice, to be honest, either. Players know when they travel. I just want to keep playing. Like reps, 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 reps. Let's just play. If we're scoring something, I'm going to call the travel, right? Because that's going to determine the outcome. But an easy way to do that is play and one. Whether you're playing 3-on-3 in the half court or you're going 5-on-5 in the full court, every basket is an and one, whether there's a foul or not. That's going to be a forcing function for you to now work free throws. And when you do that, you can talk about your blockouts and getting into your press or getting in your press break. So that's one way. Another one that I like to do early and often is giving a foul or intentionally fouling, because that's going to unlock a whole lot of other special situations that you can work on. Our terminology for fouling was code red. So at random moments in practice, I would just yell code red. We could be playing 1-on-1, 3-on-3, 5-on-5. Just yell whatever your foul call is. See what happens. See if they stop and look at you, see if they foul, see how they foul. And then again, like a game sandwich. Okay, most of our players fouled by just like grabbing their jersey. That's not how we want to foul. We want to try to steal the ball from them, and the end result might be a steal or it might be a foul. So 90 seconds. Let's do that. Go. Okay, let's play 5-on-5 at random times. I'm calling code red. Those code red situations will now, that might be a catalyst to install your special baseline out of bounds play or your special sideline out of bounds play. Or, okay, we're doing code red and now we're in week 2 or 3 of practice. Now we need to put in our delay game or our comeback game, right? And you can do all that around your code red call.
We do a 76-76, 2 minutes on the clock. First team to score 80 makes this clock start. Then it just kind of creates a bunch of different random. And if you play that over the course of a week, 5 times you get your 5-on-5 in, but then you also create some pretty unique situations, end of game type stuff. We also do, like a lot of places will do, 5 special situations. White, you got the ball on the first one, blue on the second one, white on the third one. Random times, random up 2, down 4, et cetera, et cetera. I do that from the very first day. And you want to talk about taking your hands off the reins and sheer madness. I don't do any coaching. I just let them do it. And especially with new players, that very quickly exposes IQ. It exposes leadership or lack thereof. It exposes what plans they come up with and whether or not they know how to execute and what kinds of shots they're looking for. And I don't really mess a whole lot with it for about the first week or two. And I know not a lot of coaches have that kind of time, but instead of me stepping in right away, doing something like that kind of gives you creates your own, and you can, like you said, put it on an out of bounds underneath or set up a scenario so it's a sideline, and then you can go do your go-tos or whatever. But yeah. I think just even having watched some teams last year, it was apparent to me at the highest level of Division I basketball that there was not enough time spent to special situations.
What percent of teams would you say spend the appropriate amount on special situations?
I don't hear or see many people talking about it. I think it ends at like we're playing 5-on-5.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's like this thought, like the coach is like, well, I have a bunch of really good plays in my back pocket. I think that's their solution to it. I have good plays in my back pocket and I'll be able to draw something up in the huddle.
Yeah, and so if I had to put a number on it, less than 10%.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean,
For
maybe like
sure.
one. And look, I wasn't in there either. Every year I said, "Hey, we're gonna do special situations more," and we did more and more and more, but it still was not enough. So I'm just as guilty. This is the pot calling the kettle black. But I'm at a if you change your perspective, you find new solutions. So now in the work that I do with serving coaches is, hey, we were in this situation the other night. Blah, blah, blah. Well, have we practiced that? No, we haven't. It's, well, hey, how often is the first time you've done something the best time? So even if you are that coach that has that play in their back pocket, if your players have never run it, they ain't doing it right. And they're not even if they know what to do, they're not going to do it at the level you like. The timing's not going to be there. If you don't give them every single detail, you're going to miss some things, right? Like passer, make sure you look here first before you look there, right? They're just going to see three options. They might not know which one to look at first. They might not know the timing of the screen. So all those things. And I really love the approach you took of not doing a lot of coaching or any coaching. And then, like you said, you can kind of like gradually step in there. But the value, I would go two ways. I would do no coaching or all the coaching is
Yeah.
the way I like to
Yep.
do it. That way,
Yep.
no coaching, put it on them, see what
Yeah.
solutions they come up with. And you're going to learn a lot as coaches. Let's say we play the game, 76-76. I think you said 2 minutes. We come down to the last possession and your blue team has to draw up a play. Probably going to be something that you run. Well, now you know what they're comfortable running in that situation,
Yeah.
right? And who they would go to. That gives you some feedback on what play you're going to pull. But as a coach, when you do that, man, like I've been in practice and I've been like, all right, okay, we'll go through a situation and okay, 15 seconds left. We've got the ball in the full court. We're gonna run. You probably have a play in mind. Like we might run this play. Maybe you don't have a play in mind. That should be pretty eye opening if you don't. Let's go practice it. But even if you have that play in mind, in the moment, in the heat of the moment, do you think of that play? Can you draw that play up? Can your players execute that play? What if the play for that player, he's fouled out, right? Then now you got a whole nother situation to work on. So training and testing and teaching those moments are actually going to help you organize your thoughts for that. So it's an incredible amount of value for us as coaches as well.
We go from not coaching them at all to, like you said, it's total hands-on. And then we go back to the kind of hands off. And like you said, it then exposes who knows what. The leaders step forward, they run your plays, and you see what they're most comfortable with. A couple of years ago, we won 4 games. Basically, we had 4 game winners, like in like last 3 seconds game winners. Small sample size still, although that's a lot for one season. I'd love to tell you that I drew up the play for each one of those. I think I drew up plays for 3 out of the 4. We executed out of the 4, 1 that was actually the thing that won the game. The other 3 were them basically applying principles of play and just making a play.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody thinks that just means like just going out and hooping. That wasn't going out and hooping. It was staying spaced, recognizing advantage, and shot selection. So it
Yeah.
was
I
still
think,
stuff that we worked on, but they were comfortable in those positions and making those plays because we had to address special situations literally from the first week of practice.
yeah, that's really good, man. I think most special situation plays, depending on time, obviously, it comes down to like, hey, we run what we thought we wanted to get the shot from, and then it comes down to like best player in space,
Right.
offensive
Yep.
rebound, put back. It's going to be something unscripted and random that play after the play. We had a season that towards the end of conference play, like every game came down to the wire, and we won a few, just like you were saying with your team this year. Just like it was like a Tuesday night, one at the buzzer, Friday night, one at the buzzer. It
Mm-hmm.
was nuts, and we did it with this one play. Coaches, if you want it, reach out. The feedback from this podcast is always amazing because Tony, you do such a good job with it, and you got such a good audience. Reach out. I'll give you the play. It is a sideline, not a bounds play. It has got a lot of good options. We won a championship on it, won some game winners on it. Take that, and then maybe you can use that to run your slot package this year.